Fantastic, thanks, Maxine. Welcome everybody. I see John. Welcome. I see you joined just during the introduction. So yes, we'll for today's session. I don't know whether I have got the rights to go down the page. So I might ask you to do the pages, Maxine. See if I can. No, I think I might need you to flip down the page for me. Yeah, so hello, welcome from the three of us. So I'm co-founder of Sales Untangled. We're a certified B Corp, been certified for a year, and the two other people who are helping lead this this session, Muriel, who's a director of B Otherwise and a B leader, and Phil, who is a B Corp in progress and also a B leader. And what you get out of today, you probably read this. This is just a reminder, but you probably read this as your book. So the purpose of today is, first of all, to have a look at what purpose looks like in a real business, because it can be a bit theoretical for some people. We'll talk a little bit about what a B Corp is, how it could help you, how it can help your business grow and drive prosperity. We'll certainly try and make it practical, and that's definitely a part of our aim for today, is make it practical and ways that your business can become a force for good, whether or not you want to become a B Corp. And this isn't us being evangelical about B Corps alone. And also we want to give you the chance to chat with other business owners. So my guess is that everybody who's come on here has probably got really different expectations, different understandings of the subject, and probably in a different place. So the purpose of today really is to give you a chance just to compare notes, see where everybody's at, and learn from each other. So the agenda, as we set it for today, so welcome and introduction at the beginning, of course. So just about 2:10, we're nearly on time. We're planning to go into some breakout groups, which will give you the chance to chat to each other a little bit more and talk about what does purpose mean for your business right now, which it might mean not much, it might mean lots. And as I said, you can discuss where everybody's at. We'll come back with a brief follow-up on that conversation. And then about 2:25, we'll go into a little bit more detail about what's purpose-led business, what does a purpose-led business look like, why does it work, and what's the B Corp framework. Although I assure you we won't be going into great detail about that today. Let us know if you'd like us to. And then we'll break for questions and answers about 2:40. We'll come back with some conclusions and next steps, depending a little bit on what you ask us for, and then hopefully a Q&A just to wrap up before 3. And then today we debated how long this session should be, and we thought as an introductory, an hour is probably perfect. It could be a lot longer. We didn't want to take too much out of your diaries. So it's really an introduction to the topic. And please either speak to us directly or drop comments into chat if you want to. If there are other things you think we've missed out on, things you don't think get covered, and we'll more than happily pick those up subsequently. It's actually our first meeting on this subject, so we know a fair bit about running purpose-led businesses. We don't necessarily know what works for the audience in terms of webinars and stuff. So again, your feedback's really valued, and what works and what doesn't work so well. Maxine's mentioned chat. By all means, drop into chat what you want from today if you think it's not being covered. I'm sure you all understand the confidentiality aspect of chat, so whatever goes into that, anybody can download. So if you want to hold back, say, your mobile number or whatever, do that. But equally, if you want to introduce yourselves, to drop a quick line about your business, what you do, say hello to everybody else, feel free, it's there to use, and we're more than happy for you to use it that way. And as Maxine mentioned, it's just being recorded for internal purposes only. So we'll move into breakout groups now. What I suggest, we'll move into groups of 3 or 4. I suggest initially just introduce yourselves, maybe 30 seconds or so, just who you are and what your business is, and then relatively simply, I sort of think about what do you want from today in the context of purpose and your business. If you need a second question on that, then you may maybe get into what does purpose mean to you and or your business. Hi Matt, you've changed. What does purpose mean to you or your business? So I'd start, make sure everybody gets an introduction first, and then a brief conversation about what you want from today, where you're up to in terms of purpose, and then we'll come back for 5 minutes chat back in the main room. I guess Sarah, are you Sarah using Matt's IT? Sarah, welcome. So I think we're going to ask Maxine to do some magic with groups, and then hopefully everybody can get out into groups.
Is it worth Martin mentioning that we will, bring everybody back to the main room in 5 minutes? So when you're, all talking to one another, just make sure that everybody has got the opportunity to talk.
Have we lost Martin?
I don't think so. I thought I was just waiting for Maxine to create the group. So.
Yep. So I'll launch those now. Okay.
Maxine? Hi guys, it looks like we're the only ones sticking to the
Everyone else is staying put.
So what about, I understand it's Sarah under the Matt Harris.
Yes,
name.
that's right. Apologies for the confusion.
So yeah, I didn't hear about you. So what was the idea of you joining in today, just so that I can understand?
So we're really starting to look into how we can be more ethical, and whether that's becoming more eco-friendly or getting the guys to join and do voluntary work. So I'm really here to try and find out how to go about it all, and because there's so many things out there, so many websites you can join, so many schemes you can pay for, you know, have trees planted, but it just seems a bit of a cop-out. So
Very good point.
So I'm just here to find out what everyone else is doing, and to see what would fit for us, really.
Not sure we will touch fully on that, sorry Amanda, but we can cover that in a separate discussion. Amanda, sorry, apologies.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it feels like a difficult one, doesn't it? Because I in my personal life, I've been recycling since I was about 5. I don't throw stuff away. I don't buy from Amazon. You know, I think in my personal life, I'm there. My business has been, I'm just going into my 6th year, and obviously I follow that through, and I don't work with people who treat people horribly, but it's just almost formalizing it and kind of getting straight in my head what I will allow and what I won't, I think is kind of where I am at the moment.
But that's the key, follow the line all the way. That's and it's not always easy, actually. So I think we are facing an interesting technical challenges. Monsieur Clark, I'm delighted to see you.
I'm back.
It seems that people have stuck to the breakout room, which is fabulous.
Well, I think you had to manually leave your room, from what I can work out.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were all very obedient and just did it.
We all did. Yes.
Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Do you have any ways of communicating with Martin, Phil, to let him know that he needs to leave his room himself?
I don't know. Short of email. I think they'll work that out. Oh yeah, you texted me. Sorry, see, I wasn't even looking at my phone to see what was going on. I think they'll probably work that out. But what did you discuss in your group?
Introduction, if I'm I am correct, and what people are aiming to do or currently doing, which is very interesting. And actually, maybe Phil, it would be worth you talking to Sarah, and under the disguise of Matt Harris, because I understand that Sarah is interested in, you know, carbon footprint and carbon offsetting. So it could be interesting for you guys to connect afterwards.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, more than happy to chat. Matt stroke Sarah.
Hello.
And everybody's back. Fabulous.
Hi, everybody.
Phew.
Welcome back.
You were trapped in the ether forever.
It did feel a bit worrying there for a moment.
In the recording, there will be a Muriel on her own in the main room saying, Maxine!
Oh no!
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay, so I'll mute myself and we can go back to the presentation, guys. Thank you.
So really, it was, you know, hoping that some of you had, you know, enough time to talk about, you know, what purpose is, and you know, if you want to share, you know, examples of what you found out in your breakout rooms. Any volunteers? You're all on mute.
We didn't really get past the introductions.
Any other rooms? Any other people who managed to touch on the purpose prompt?
So we talked a little bit in our group with Marie from MER, and Marie was talking about how important it is for her to want to get a real understanding of what purpose can mean for a business, and then what lessons she can learn from that to apply to her own organisation.
Fabulous. And what about you, Martin? Anything coming out of where you were? You were there the longest.
Oh, well, that's because we were having a really good conversation. So we did have a really good conversation with both John and Karen, who are making steps along the whole purpose journey and coming at it to some extent from different ends. So Karen started a business with the objective of it being a purpose-driven business. John's got a business and is now thinking about, how do I fit purpose in? So we just broke into that conversation about the challenges of having to retrofit it versus the benefits of being clear from the start. So so we just got into that conversation. So yeah, it was a really interesting conversation, and but we were at the start of it rather than the end. So we're happy to hand back to you.
Thank you, Martin, and I hope that we will have, you know, time at the end to carry on the conversation collectively.
Can I think that, Muriel, because I think that's a really good point, and I think companies have drafted purposes without the thought of it having sustainable integration or message in there, and then they're trying to retrofit it and kind of. I think companies now need to start to redraft their purposes and start thinking of, you know, if I'm really honest and if I'm really sincere when it comes to my company being truly sustainable in all its efforts, then the purpose needs to be reflecting that.
Absolutely. And, you know, knowing a bit about, you know, John's business and having heard 2 seconds on Andy's, I think that we've got two illustrations of, you know, Andy having the privilege of, you know, building his business with these principles in mind, and John being very committed to inject these principles in an existing business. And it will be interesting to hear about it maybe a bit later on in the conversation. And sorry, I'm just quoting those two gentlemen because I know about them and I don't know about all of you yet. But, you know, reflecting on what you've just said, Charlotte, the idea of, you know, what is purpose? What do we call purpose? It's, you know, purpose in life. And it's why you get up in the morning. And when it comes to purpose for business is why, you know, everybody that is linked to your business gets up in the morning. What do you bring to the world? You know, it's that broad actually. And the key to have a meaningful purpose, a genuine purpose, is that it translates into everything that you do as a business. And Maxine, if we could go to the next one. It's, you know, it's you've all heard about Simon Sinek and the why, yeah? And this is very much centered about the why. And we've quoted here, you know, three fairly sizable, very sizable in the case of Unilever, UK businesses that have, you know, embedded actually their purpose. I think Unilever is more on, you know, the John scenario, which is, you know, they've been there forever. And this very famous ex-CEO, Paul Polman, embedded, you know, the idea of sustainability in the business very successfully and becoming a benchmark for everybody. Ella's Kitchen was very much at the beginning, so that's the Andy scenario, and the idea being to improve kids' life, which is fabulous. And Innocent, I think Innocent was such a disruptor in the field when they started, and it was always about bringing goodness and helping people to be healthy, and to bring, you know, to give them good drinks that taste good, but that do them good as well. And I think the challenge in all those beautiful sentences is to make it reality in the way you conduct business. If we could go to the next one. And in the case of Innocent, and Innocent being an interesting case actually, because they've been purchased by Coca-Cola in 2013, left, however, to operate as an independent business and became accredited in 2018, you know, sticking to what their purpose was. And it's all about, you know, the way that Douglas talks about it is joining a movement that helps you to be true to your purpose, which was to do good as well as generating profit, but not generating profit for the sake of it. And I think that's very important to really recognize that purposeless business will have, you know, greater credibility with consumers. If we could go to the next slide, Maxine, and it helps you to be part of a community, and you create a virtuous circle around your business. And when you talk to consumers, specifically in the UK, you know, with purpose comes responsibility, or with responsibility comes purpose. It's a chicken and egg situation, but you have, you know, a huge majority of the consumers that expect businesses to make a difference towards the people and towards planet, with, you know, almost, you know, 2/3 of the population that had been contacted, thinking that it is a key responsibility for business to have a positive impact beyond creating profit, and to create profit in a non-harmful way. So hopefully that gives you a broader idea on, you know, purpose. And I think B Corp is a fabulous platform and framework to translate purpose into business practices. Over to you, Phil.
Thanks, Muriel. Next slide, please. So Muriel just mentioned B Corp. So I'm going to take us through the next few slides, just explaining what B Corp is. And it's a framework that allows businesses to articulate and be certified as to what their purpose is, and evidence that through meeting the highest levels of social and environmental performance. So it's a third-party certification scheme. It's open to any business that aims to make a profit. So it's not a charity, for example, can't become a B Corp. It's very much aimed at businesses that are there, they are trading, they're making a product, delivering a service, they're delivering a profit, but they want to do more than that. And that, because as Muriel has said, it either may be something very much about the business, Innocent making relatively healthy drinks. It could be a company that is giving a huge amount of its profits to charity very deliberately, or it could be a company like mine. I'm an environmental consultancy. I do business in a certain way, and I'm going through the process at the moment to become a B Corp, so I can kind of evidence what I'm doing, and I'm meeting these high standards. So as I mentioned, it's a third-party external certification. It's a rigorous assessment, and it's driven through a thing called the B Impact Assessment, which is a free tool. So any company can sign up and use that, and we'll send a link round at the end. And it's a really interesting way to sort of assess how you perform as a business. You don't have to go for certification. You can kind of use the tool to go through and be prompted to how you're performing as a business, environmentally and socially, and in your governance, and see what good can look like and what better can look like. And if you choose to, you can go all the way through the process to ultimately certify. But crucially, it's about, as I say, recognizing that you're trying to do something a bit different. You want to be a different type of organization. And this is where the second part of this slide comes in. So there are lots of companies out there, they'll say, you know, our purpose is this, or we're committed to doing that in terms of environmental things. One of the things you need to do as a B Corp is you actually change your articles of association. So for those of us that run limited companies, many of us will have set them up without thinking too much about the articles we adopted. But you make a change to your articles of association that says you will consider, when you become legally required as a director to consider, the impact of your decisions on all stakeholders. So that includes people and planet effectively, as well as your shareholders making a profit. Crucially, what it doesn't do is prioritize either of those. So, and there's no recourse from your stakeholders to try and prosecute you if you don't. But the idea is to more formalize that change within your organization and commit you and your organization more greatly to change. And there's some really interesting examples. I'm working with a business at the moment who is in their startup phase. They've had an initial round of investment. They want to get this right. They want to get B Corp in there now, while there are two of them that control the business, so they can get the purpose nailed down legally within the business. So as they grow, as they bring on more investors, they will then be protected in terms of the mission they want to drive as a business. Next slide, please. So here's just an example of some B Corp. So you may have heard of B Corp. It's increasingly a phrase that's used. Ocado and Waitrose and M&S now have filters within their online shopping where you can say, show me B Corps that I can buy from, as a way to use what's called the B economy. But some well-known names there. So Pucker Herbs, who make tea, Divine Chocolate, Innocent, who we've already mentioned, Ben & Jerry's, which is one of the Unilever brands, Body Shop. But it can be all sorts of businesses. So Patagonia, which is an enormous global business, Danone, which is an enormous global business. You know, to see such big businesses in there is fascinating, but also seeing such smaller names that you've never heard of is also just really interesting. More and more of these companies, 3,700 globally. We've just had the 500th company in the UK certify as a B Corp in the last few days. And what's interesting is to see how some of those bigger companies are reacting. So Unilever, for example, now owns 8 B Corps. We talked about Coca-Cola having bought Innocent smoothies, Innocent drinks. These are lifeboat investments in many ways, where big companies that perhaps have less focus on their purpose traditionally are recognizing the need to do that, and they're buying smaller businesses. So that's another interesting way of smaller businesses making themselves attractive in the market. Next slide, please. So why do companies become B Corps? So lots of reasons. And if any of you have ever been on any events I've spoken to talking about the business case for sustainability, a lot of it is there. So it's about protecting your mission as an organization, raising your voice, building relationships. I mentioned that B economy. I actively look for B Corps to buy from when I buy things. A lot of my clothes and things we buy around the house and food stuff come from B Corps. And increasingly we're seeing that B Corps looking to trade with each other at a B to B level as well as a B to C level. And there's lots of kind of interesting data coming out about some of the benefits of becoming a B Corp. So a survey conducted last year by B Lab, which is the governing body for all of this, has shown that B Corps are growing faster in terms of headcount than non-B Corps. They're reporting much lower staff attrition rates, about half of the typical SME when looking at SME B Corps. Twice as many SME B Corps expected their turnover to increase looking forwards compared to non-B Corp SMEs. So lots of increased business confidence because those companies are thinking about what they do, and by thinking about their social aspects, by thinking about their environmental impacts, by thinking about their employees, they just create themselves into more effective businesses. Next slide, please. So just very quickly, the sort of 5 areas of focus, and this comes in this B impact assessment, which I won't go into in any detail on this slide, but the assessment looks at the governance, so how your business is run. Do you know, what's the structure for your organization? Have you been clear about what your mission and purpose is? Are you clear on your ethics policies, those sorts of things? It then looks at your workers and how you pay people, how you employ people, what you offer them in terms of well-being and health and other benefits, whether there are opportunities for those workers to take ownership in the company. It looks at your environmental impacts, which even for a small business like mine, my carbon footprint is anywhere between 1 and 3 tons a year, but I still have an environmental impact. So it'll ask you questions about your carbon footprint and what you're intending to do about that. And the more complex you are as a business, the more questions you'll see come out. It'll look at how you engage with your local community, whether that's giving money, whether that's volunteering time, whether that's encouraging and driving and advocating and being an ally around diversity and equality, and how you work with your suppliers. Do you prefer to buy from suppliers from underrepresented populations or whatever it may be, or even just local suppliers? And then how you work with your customers, how you know that you're doing the things that your customers want, how you're aligning to them, and how you're helping them to become better organizations themselves. So there's about 200 or so questions in the impact assessment that would cover off all of these areas. You score points as you go through, with the goal of scoring at least 80 points to allow you to then click through to certification. So I'll stop there rather than go on any more, because I think Muriel is waving furiously at me, and I'll hand over to Martin to talk about what it's like to actually be a B Corp.
Fantastic, thanks, Phil. Yeah, I just thought as we were putting the agenda together, we said it would be worthwhile as we've actually been through the B Corp process, and try and make it a little bit more real for people, because I know it seems a bit distant sometimes. And so we are very briefly mentioned at the beginning. We are a sales consultancy. So our day job is we help businesses become more efficient in their sales operation. And so a bit like Phil referred to, we're a commercial business. We're not a recycling business. We're not environmental consultants. We don't, in that sense, we don't have purpose at our core, but we've still become a B Corp. So I think it's important to be clear for people that it is possible to do that even whilst you're a commercial organisation. Sorry, can you flip? Thanks, Maxine. So I think three questions that these are probably the three questions that I get asked most, and I do get asked a lot of questions. Why did we choose to become a B Corp? I've worked in the past for a lot of big businesses. I've worked for PepsiCo, Glaxo, people like that, and they're great businesses to work for. They invest in you a lot. There's a lot of innovation, a lot of insight, because of big budgets to go and drive insight and find out what customers are saying. But I think for me, always there was a little bit of something missing about making money for invisible shareholders, and you don't know who owns those businesses. It's always a little bit invisible. So I guess for me, I was always looking for something around purpose, or something a little bit more deep that I didn't quite get out of working for those big businesses. So when I came across B Corp and this idea that you can run a profit-making organization but still do good by community and by your own people, that really resonated with me. I guess that was the first reason. And then that was enough to get me involved in the community. And I went to a community event in the good old days when we were allowed to go to community events. So I went to a B Corp social event. And what struck me then, and there's a second reason really, there was just an amazing community around, I would say, around purpose as a whole. I don't think it is exclusive to B Corps, but anybody who works in purpose or is involved with purpose, I tell you, people want to help, people want to engage in the conversation. So that was really the deciding factor for me, from where I thought, okay, what do we need to change to certify? How big a test is it? And if any of you have looked at, and John, you mentioned it, starting with the B Corp assessment, believe me, I started with very, very few points. I mean, we were nowhere near 80. I think we had 27 or something at first pass. So we did have to change quite a lot. Some of it for us was around governance. So for us, we're only two co-founders in the business, no bigger. So we've had to put in place some processes and recording and documentation that we didn't otherwise have. We've done quite a lot of work around emissions and trying to even just understand emissions and what were emissions when you were a two-people business. So starting with that was quite important. We've needed to change our bank, so we've now moved out of one of the big banks, even though actually their customer service was great, but we've moved to a different provider. So there are a lot of things that are sort of practical. If you've got the energy and the resource to go through those things, they are achievable, but quite a lot to pull together. And I guess that sort of flows into the third question that people ask is, what has it changed? What people actually ask is, does it make you money? But I put it more subtly and said, does it change who you work with? And I think going back to that community point, for certain, we are getting lots of interesting conversations with people we might not have otherwise spoken to. So there is a certain amount of slog in having to go through what is effectively an audit process to get through the certification. But at the end of it, I do think the big picture is you end up with a more professional looking business with a great certification that is still quite rare, and it opens up conversations with people that you just weren't expecting to have, and that in turn obviously opens up business opportunities. So if you ask me, has it changed significantly the way we work and who we work with, I'd say it's evolution rather than revolution. It's sort of step at a time, but certainly it's helped. So that was a quick overview. I don't want to take up too long talking about it. What I think we maybe do now is just open up to some questions, because I know we've had a fair bit of presentation. You must have started here with questions, probably got even more questions now we've started talking, so probably a good time to open it up and let you ask some questions, and we'll try and answer some things that might be front of mind for you.
May I add something just before Sarah you start? I'll be super quick. Just so that you know that it's rare but not rare. The UK B Corp community is the fastest B Corp community, the fastest growing B Corp community in the world currently, and they are so popular that they have to increase the staffing at the B Lab, headquarters in London, because they can't, absorb and process the accreditation fast enough for the moment. So it's now is the time. Sorry, Sarah.
I was wondering what made you go with B Corp, because there's a lot of businesses out there, or a lot of certifications that you can aim for. What made you decide to go with B Corp?
That's a good question. Shall I answer that one? I mean, for me, it's an interesting question, and truthfully, I didn't search a whole load of alternatives. So I just came across it. For me, it really resonated, and I went for it from there. But I mean, there may be alternatives. So yeah, there may be other things you can go for. And certainly, before the end of today, we're going to share some things that are a little bit simpler that you might be able to do as first steps.
Okay, thank you.
And I think for me, I'd probably echo that. So, I first became aware of B Corps 2015, I think, when they first really started in the UK. And it is that resonating of what I stand for as a company, let alone being an environmental consultancy. And it's forced me to think and document some of the processes that I would just do ordinarily, but as I grow the business, I might stop doing by accident. So it's a really nice framework that rewards you for what you're achieving now, but also clearly shows you a framework of what even better looks like. And the questions and the challenges to remain a B Corp, every 3 years you have to recertify, that changes and gets harder. So the bar constantly gets raised as you go through.
To add to that, Sarah, there's also a lot of businesses that use the B impact assessment purely as a guideline and never go through the accreditation, because it's a really good framework to follow.
Okay, that's good to know.
And it's for free, it's open access. So
okay,
that's the benefit of it. There's a question, sorry, I'm not capturing everything, but there's a question here about, could B Corp be used as a project management? Well, actually, the BIA, B impact assessment methodology is built to help you project manage your progress. You've got various functionality on this that helps you to build goals, to set yourself timelines, to compare yourself with, the industry benchmark, etc. So yes, in a way, I think you still need to have your own internal project management person who keeps everybody on track, because, let's not lie, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of valuable work, but it's a lot of work.
I was just going to answer Karen's question as well. So Karen asked a question about, is there a startup fund that invests in B Corp? I'm not aware of a specific fund that exists that does that, but there is a new classification of B Corps that came out recently called B Corp Pending, which you may see on some companies. And that was designed very specifically for new companies, because investors, venture capitalists wanted to be able to identify companies that were focused on purpose. So going back to some of that business case piece around companies that focus on purpose tend to just be better businesses, therefore more interesting to invest in. So the pending status is not, I've applied, I'm waiting to be certified. It's for companies that have been trading for less than 12 months. They say, this is how we're going to set up our business. This is what we stand for. You go through the process, you fill in the forms, and then you have 12 months to actually then go through the full external process. But it allows you to become a B Corp Pending which is a way of benchmarking and showing what you stand for to the investor community.
And the benefit of pending B Corp is there's no queue. You apply because there is no verification process associated with this one. You will get the access to the logo and being able to communicate that in your marketing material much more quickly than for the accreditation, which is fully verified.
Mm. And companies are doing it. So there's a clothing company called Bouckgen, which is fairly well known. They made a really big thing, and they got B Corp pending, and that's all over their brochures that drop through our door on a regular basis.
Any further questions? The greenwashing. Merci, Charlotte. Well, there's actually a lot of noise in the press this week on greenwashing and ESG, and the big guys having fabulous scores and still financing oil foraging. That's a good point. I think it's an opinion now, and I'm sure Martin and Phil will answer your question. I believe it is a good guarantee against greenwashing because they do spend a lot of time on the verification on every application, because that guarantees the validity of the accreditation. So yes, I think it would protect against greenwashing. But Phil or Martin, what do you think?
I was going to say it's a very rigorous process, the verification. So they don't ask you to evidence every question. You're expected to be able to evidence everything you put in there, but you'll only actually be asked to evidence a subset in your interviews. But one of the other aspects is I mentioned the sort of 5 main areas: the workers, the employer, environment, etc. There's also a thing called the disclosure questionnaire, which is 50 or so questions you have to go through, and that will deliberately identify companies that would be perhaps problematic. So if you work in an extremely dirty sector, or for example you make breast milk alternatives, or you've been involved in laying off very large numbers of staff, things that might be evidential of a business that isn't really working very well and therefore might be more prone to greenwash. You have to go through these 50 or 60 questions, and if you answer yes to any of them, then there's a further investigation takes place. So again, that's another sort of greenwash filter.
Thanks, Phil. Do you see this becoming a little bit like the ISO standards going forward? Or are there other types of B Corp equivalents?
So I hope it'll be better than ISO. I've run ISO 14001 systems, and like any quality management system, you just get points for complying by your laws. So you can have a really good environmental management system but actually not do very much. You won't get a B Corp certification if you're not doing good things. It's as simple as that. So I think it will be better, but it aligns to lots of aspects of management systems.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, great, thank you. Can we just move on a couple of charts, Maxine, please? We just done a bit of Q&A. So we just thought it would be helpful to share some other things you can do, because you've got 3 people here who are from a B Corp background or B leader background, but there are other things you can do. So one of the things, and I'm sure some of you will recognize this, this graphic is from the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. If you haven't started thinking about this at all yet, it might just serve as a prompt actually, because these are the 17 high-level goals that the UN has decided to import. You might be able to think, oh, actually, there are 2 or 3 of those maybe resonate with you more than others. But there are things you can do around that you may have heard of. The BIA, apologies for abbreviations, but it's a long mouthful. That is the B Corp assessment tool, so which Muriel, thank you, just shared the link to that on the B Corp corporation.uk website. So you can start using that. You don't have to be a B Corp or intend it. You don't even have to submit. You can use it as an internal document if you want. There's something local you might have heard of. I think this is mainly based around Thames Valley, called Csr Accreditation. It's a much simpler accreditation than B Corp. It probably doesn't have quite the same kudos, certainly not globally, but it's a simpler place to start. And if you wanted to start there, maybe you could achieve that and then move on to other things. There's a 1% for the planet, which is donating a certain percentage of your funding. Muriel said it's as far as the Middle, CSR is as far as the Middle East, so it shows how little I know. I thought they went as far as Amersham. And there's 1% for the planet, which is something you can do. It's a formalized donation system, something like the prompt payments code, which you literally just have to sign up to, but it gets you a little logo saying we're doing the right sort of things, respecting our suppliers. I'm not sure actually. The Good Business Charter has been set up by Julian Richer, who runs Richer Sounds, it's the stereo chain. And that's a very simple way. It's a 10-point charter. So if you wanted something to certify in, that's quite straightforward. It's 10 very simple points, and you can sign up to that. It took me about 15 minutes, I think, which compares nicely with the year it took me to do the B Corp. And then there are others which I know less about, these Future Fit and UN Global. There is a long list of things you can do. It's not just about B Corp. So I think it's important for us to say that, look, there are some other things you can do that are all about doing business, doing great things with your business, but not necessarily about B Corp. Can we flip on a chart, please? So what next? We've got probably another 5 minutes for chats and conversation if you wanted to stay on. By all means, connect with us on LinkedIn. Our LinkedIn details are on here. If you want to follow up further, by all means, book a 30-minute call with one of us. We overlap, obviously, in what we do, but particularly Phil has got a really strong focus around environment. I think he just said he was an environmental superstar, environmental consultant. I'm particularly at the commercial end because our business is, as I said, a commercial organisation. So if you want to think about sales and marketing, how does that work with B Corp? By all means, chat with me. And if you want to talk more about sort of sustainability strategy, then Muriel's there as well, or whichever one of us you feel like talking to. You've got the bcorporation.uk, and before you do hop off, if you want to give us any feedback, or either in chat or verbally, please do that. But I think we've got another 5 minutes for further questions. If anybody's got anything else they want to ask.
If I may, Martin, it's just that I happen, to work a bit with CSR accreditation. So they're more than just a local accreditation, system. They recently accredited, NHS Northumberland and Abu Dhabi Port authorities. So they are reaching, across various geography. And it's as opposed to B Corp, which is beautiful because it's very specific and it's a strong guideline. CSR accreditation is broader, so it's an open-end framework to help you start on the journey, I would say. So I just wanted to clarify this point. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you.
Any questions, ladies and gentlemen? Anything that we haven't covered? I think what we could say, Martin and Phil, is that, B Corp is really a framework to translate your purpose into action. It's also a framework to join a community that helps you to do more and more good with your business. And however, it's very important rightly so, actually, it's an endeavor. It's a project in itself. And it's not, I wouldn't compare it to ISO standards, Charlotte, because it's a real commitment, and it's not about, writing a set of policies. It's much more than that. Yeah. It's about helping you developing a dashboard that helps you make the right decision in your business, aligned with your purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that is the fundamental difference.
And I think that is so exciting and so much today, and we really need to implement it in the corporations. The question is, even if you set a big purpose, a purpose that is really purposeful when it comes to sustainability, and you put all the measurements in place, how do you then drive the organization? Because the organization is today driven by profit and return on shareholders' investments, right? So how do you get the KPIs incorporated to that level that even the shareholders, or whatever they are, investors or owners, are buying into the corporation being driven according to the, say, purpose, sustainable purpose? That is the next question.
Phil, Martin?
Well, perhaps I'll just add my thoughts on that. So I think there's one of the beauties to me about the B Corp process is it's so overarching across your whole business that you can't just B Corp your business in the way that you could have a sustainability team could put 14,001 ISO 14,001 into your business and it lives in a little bubble and no one knows it's there. You can't do that with B Corp. It touches every part of your business, and by embedding thinking around how you treat your employees, how you work with the communities, how you communicate your progress to your board of directors and how often you do that, all of those things are so embedded within the business that it creates that sense of this is what we stand for. And you've only got to go and talk to B Corps, and I would encourage you to do that. If I've learned one thing over the last few years is, it's great that you've got people like Muriel and I who are trained as B leaders. We're trained how to help companies do this, but actually you can pick up the phone to any B Corp and they will tell you about how wonderful it is. They'll tell you about the journey, they'll help you, they'll guide you. And that to me speaks volumes. Companies don't do that about their environmental program or their community program, but they become incredibly passionate. And then by doing that, that's reflected in how they operate as a business. It's reflected in their B Corp status, and that's where the boards and the investors get interested and understand it.
Right. Thank you.
Can I ask a question? I don't know whether this might be for you, Phil, but this is a question Karen asked earlier on. And Karen was asking about what sort of structure of organisation you would be best to have if you want to become a B Corp. So I think, Karen, did you say you're a sole trader and thinking of becoming limited, or which way do you want to go?
Yes. Yeah. Is B Corp, so I guess I'd like clarity on is B Corp a layer that sits over an existing legal structure? So would I be a limited company that has B Corp accreditation, or is B Corp the entire legal structure?
No,
and
sorry, go on.
Yep, wondering, just to drop one more thing in, is whether a one-person business could become accredited.
So yes, a one-person business very much can become accredited. So Martin is evidence of a two-person business that's accredited. I hopefully in the next couple of months will be an accredited one-person business once I get through the queue. It's a certification, so changing your articles of association doesn't change the legal structure of your business. You still remain a limited company in that sense, but you've put something into those articles that says I'm going to behave differently to a normal limited company. I will think about the environment. I will think about communities and people. So it doesn't change. In America, there is a thing called the benefit corporation. Is a structure of business in the US where this came from. That's partly where that came from, but we don't have that in the UK.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so and that's true. So I was a limited company before I went through the B Corp thing. I've become a B Corp, which meant changing the articles of association, but still we are technically Sales Untangled Limited, so limited company. And in fact, your question about single people, technically we only had one employee when I certified as a B Corp a year ago. I've sort of recruited my business partner in since then, but we were a one-person business when we did it. So yes, it is possible. Yeah.
Great.
And happy to chat outside of here if you want any more guidance on that.
Thank you. Helpful.
It's just I'm delighted there's still a question coming in. We're unfortunately running out of time, and maybe we could encourage people to reach out to any or all of us separately if we can help you in any way, shape or form in your sustainable endeavors. It's been a pleasure talking to you all. Thank you very much for participating and being an active audience. Any further comments, gentlemen?
No, I don't know how Maxine's time is. I'm okay to stay on for another 5 or 10 minutes if people want to carry on chatting and asking questions, but I don't know if that's possible.
I'm happy to stay on. That's absolutely fine. Keep going. Yeah.
Likewise, I can hang around if anyone's got any specific questions.
I just connected with you guys on LinkedIn.
Great, thank you.
But I couldn't find Martin.
Marie, I think we might have lost you.
Marie.
On mute.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I couldn't find Martin. Is that the gentleman that is responsible for going forward with marketing and sales growth?
Yes, probably. Yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, I think I will need to connect with you more.
Okay, that sounds great. Can you find us on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I think I cannot seem to get you on LinkedIn.
Okay, let me check. Well, let's see if there's another question. While we're doing that, I'll drop my profile into the chat. Yeah, it is on there. Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay. I got you. I sent you the request. Yeah, it's okay.
Fabulous.
Thank you.
That's great.
I was wondering what you guys do for community work or volunteering or anything like that. Do you guys do that locally, or is it a wider scheme that you do or anything like that?
I'm happy to start. So yeah, I volunteer in the community here. So I live in Woburn Green, so in Buckinghamshire. I do things like volunteer driving for the elderly around here to get them to hospital appointments and that sort of thing. I also do public events, so I'll talk about sustainability to community groups and that sort of thing to try and advocate. So slightly different to volunteering, but bringing in that advocacy piece around my topics and skills, and doing the odd bit of pro bono work as well for local companies.
For myself, I volunteer in the local zero waste shop, which is a community business. And then I participate to, or I do donation to bigger organizations locally and internationally. But the active thing is the zero waste shop for me.
Okay.
Seed one in Marlow.
Seed one in Marlow, indeed.
Yeah, and if your question is about is there a sort of B Corp central thing on this? I don't think there is. I don't think there's like a B Corp nominated charity or anything of that nature. I think it is, it's mainly devolved out to individual businesses to do what they want. So there is a very active community board for B Corps, and then people will come on and say, I'm thinking of doing this. Has anybody else tried it? Has anybody else used this sort of packaging? Anybody else got an idea how we can promote this? So there's a lot of that conversation and sharing of best practice, but no central sort of nominated charity or anything like that. So so it is, as the guys have said, it's down to how you want to contribute locally to your community, and then that's down to individual on an individual business's basis.
From a giving perspective, we mentioned the 1% of the Planet initiative, so that's worth a look at. So the idea there is you donate at least 1% of your turnover to environmental charities, and that is you can either pick a charity that you already have some sort of affiliation to, as long as they're a member of 1% of the Planet, or they can match you with a local charity. So you could say, I'm interested in ocean plastics, and they'll connect you with a charity that does that you could then pass your funding to. Okay,
that's interesting.
It's a really interesting network. And that's actually I love being part of that. I've always given a proportion of my turnover and profits away, but actually it's turned into a really lovely community of like-minded businesses, and I've actually picked up clients through that, which was an unexpected bonus. So it's more, again, sort of back to this, we talked about the B economy, and companies that have a certain outlook, they're focused on purpose, they're focused on doing the right thing, increasingly are looking to trade with like-minded companies, and that's just another opportunity.
Great, thank you.
Andy, was there anything front of mind for you? You've been sitting very diligently there. See, right, thank you. You're on Dan's refill store in Chalfont.
Yes, that's my wife and brother-in-law, who are very keen on all of that. They're having some premises issues at the moment, but still managing to do house-to-house delivery whilst doing other journeys to minimise the environmental impact. But thank you very much for this. As someone who's just incorporating, I've been really searching as to how I could set the framework of a business to be responsible in its future and to protect it from investments that might have other purposes, shall we say. So it's been very, very helpful for me today to be able to understand that I can change the articles, all those kinds of things. and also to go for pending in the near future would be very, very helpful. Is CSR accreditation a sort of development from CSR Europe from about 15 years ago?
Not that I'm aware of, Andy. It's
Okay.
been developed, like Martin said, locally.
Okay.
And it's aligned with what is called nowadays the ISO 26000 standard.
Okay.
But no, it's a separate organization.
Okay. No, I was just involved with them years and years ago.
Okay.
But, yeah. Okay. It's been fabulous. Thank you very much for the introduction. It's been of much encouragement and use.
Great. Thanks for coming along.
And Andy, it's great to speak Swedish with you as well.
It's been a long time since I've had a chance to speak Swedish.
Well, you keep it up well, I must say.
Yeah.
So, I'd like to keep in contact with you on LinkedIn, so I'll ask Muriel to share her contacts.
Yes, please do.
That would be interesting.
Please do. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Right. I think Marie's having to sign off now, I think. So thanks for coming along, Marie. I don't know whether you did have a question. By all means, pop it in chat before you go, or shout it out, or drop it to us afterwards.
If there's no more question, I'm sorry, I'm 10 minutes late for another meeting.
Oh, you
so
should have said that.
I really enjoyed the session. I'm delighted to hear that it's been helpful. Please do reach out. The idea is to provide service and to help you on your journey. So, one of us, all of us will help you. Very nice to meet you all. Bye.
Thank you very much.